Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive curated just for you listeners of Vintage Car Chronicles on Spotify.
Awesome.
Today we're taking a look at the Cizeta V16T.
Yeah.
It's a supercar from the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of people have kind of forgotten about this car.
It's a really interesting car. It kind of represents this peak of Italian...
Excess.
Yeah.
And the ambition is really what gets me, I think.
Yeah, and the thing that's most notable about it is it's got a V16 engine.
Mounted sideways.
Mounted transversely.
Which is,
very unusual for a production car. I mean, there are very few V16s at all, and then to have it mounted sideways is really interesting.
I can't imagine the engineering challenges they had to go through to get that to work.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge, yeah.
So we're going to talk about, that's obviously a huge part of this car.
Yeah.
We're also going to talk about Marcello Gandini, who was the designer.
Yeah.
He also designed the Lamborghini Countach and Diablo.
He was a very prolific designer.
Yeah. And then there was also some celebrity involvement. Giorgio Moroder.
Yeah, the father of disco.
The father of disco was involved in this project.
The big car guy, yeah.
And then, of course, it's a story of Italian automotive ambition.
Uh-huh.
So, of course, there was financial turmoil and legal battles.
Yeah, the production numbers were really low.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very, very interesting story.
So let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Who is the person behind this car?
So the guy behind it was Claudio Zampolli, former Lamborghini engineer.
So this guy, he was a master of cars.
Oh, yeah, he knew his stuff.
He knew how to push the limits of automotive performance. Did he stay in Italy to develop this?
He actually moved to California.
Oh, wow.
And he was servicing cars for rich and famous people.
Oh, wow. So he's working on, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Taking your Lamborghini to a former Lamborghini engineer.
I mean, talk about someone who knows the ins and outs. Yeah.
Some of his clients included Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, big rock stars.
So this is like a gearhead's dream.
Oh, yeah, totally. To be working on these cars all the time.
So how does this lead him to making the Cizeta?
Well, one of his clients was Giorgio Moroder.
Oh, wow.
So they both, shared Italian heritage, love of cars.
The father of disco. The father of disco is a gearhead, huh?
Yeah, big time. Okay. Moroder saw that Zampolli had this dream.
Yeah.
To build this supercar, and he decided to back him.
Oh, wow.
Financially.
Okay, so we've got an engineer with a dream, and we've got a music icon with money.
Yes.
This sounds like a match made in heaven.
It does.
But let's get back to this engine, because I am so fascinated by this engine.
Yeah.
So you said a V16.
Yeah.
Can you, really explain what that means?
Okay, so, most people are familiar with, a V8 engine.
Right.
Where you have, a V shape, and there's 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
So you double that.
16 cylinders.
And it's huge.
Huge, yeah. 6 liters.
Oh, my gosh.
And then, mounted sideways. Just imagine the width of that.
Oh, my God.
Wider than a Countach.
Wider than a Countach. Wow. Okay, so they really just went all out.
Oh, yeah. They weren't holding back. And it's not just the size.
Okay.
This thing's got 64 valves.
64 valves?
64 valves, 8 camshafts.
Oh, my God.
2 fuel injection systems.
They really threw the kitchen sink at this engine.
Yes, they did.
It must have been so much work for the engineers.
Oh, yeah. It was a nightmare.
To get this thing in the car.
Yeah, trying to fit a 5-foot-long engine into a space that was meant for something half the size.
Oh, my gosh. So we've got the crazy engineer, we've got the music icon, we've got this massive engine.
Yeah.
What does this car look like?
So this is where Marcello Gandini comes in.
Okay.
The guy who designed the Countach and Diablo.
Yeah.
The Cizeta's design was actually based on his rejected proposal for the Diablo.
No way. So the Cizeta is like the Diablo's like what the
rebel sibling.
The black sheep.
The black sheep, yeah.
Yeah. So why was it rejected for the Diablo?
I'm not sure. We don't really know.
Okay.
But you can definitely see the resemblance.
It's got to be similar to the Countach too then.
Yeah, the front end especially is very similar. But the Cizeta, Zampolli had some input on the design as well. Yeah. So it's a little more angular, a little more aggressive.
Okay.
And, those quad pop-up headlights.
Oh, got to have the pop-up headlight.
Yeah, pure 80s.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the glamour.
Uh-huh.
But we kind of have to talk about, the bad stuff, too.
Yeah. It wasn't all sunshine and roses.
So what happened?
Well, it was a really complex car.
Yeah.
Very expensive to produce.
And they wanted to hand build it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Zampoli's vision was very much like handcrafted exclusivity.
Okay.
But, it's really hard to scale.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that, you have Giorgio Moroder pulling out of the project.
Oh, no.
So that was a big financial hit.
Yeah.
And then the global economic downturn in the early 90s didn't help either.
Oh, of course.
And then, the final nail in the coffin was that it couldn't be sold in the U.S.
Why not?
Because it didn't meet the safety and emissions regulations.
Oh, so they were just totally shut out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Of a huge market.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's rough.
Yeah.
That's really rough. I mean, for Zampolli especially, who put so much of himself into this.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a classic story of like, ambition butting up against reality.
Yeah.
But even though it didn't really succeed commercially, it still has this legacy.
So how many of these things even exist?
Only about a dozen.
A dozen?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So they're like unicorns.
Yeah.
I bet they're worth a lot of money now.
Oh, yeah.
Did he ever try to bring it back?
He did, actually. In 2003, he introduced a spider version.
Oh, a spider? So convertible?
Yeah.
Must have been gorgeous.
Beautiful car, yeah.
Did it work?
No, it didn't really change anything.
Oh.
Yeah, it was still too expensive.
Yeah.
Still had those same issues.
Yeah.
And then Zampolli got into some legal trouble.
Oh.
So that didn't help either.
Okay, so it's a sad story in some ways.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
But I think it's really cool that he had this vision and he actually brought it to life.
Yeah, I mean, how many people can say they created their own supercar?
Exactly. Like he really did it.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't the massive success he wanted.
Yeah.
It's still really cool.
Yeah.
So the next part we're going to talk about like the legacy.
Yeah.
And kind of what happened to it and what it means to the automotive world.
Exactly.
So stay tuned.
All right. So we're back and we're talking about this car that despite its limited production, it's really captured people's imaginations.
It is really fascinating. I mean, the more we talk about it, the more I'm just kind of like blown away that this car is kind of this.
It's a hidden gem.
Yeah.
It really is.
Like, why is this not like a mainstream supercar?
Well, I think it kind of represents a certain moment in time.
Yeah.
In the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
When there was just this like boundless ambition in the car industry.
Correct.
People were really pushing the limits.
Yeah.
And the Cizeta is a perfect example of that. It was this like no holds barred approach to building a supercar.
Yeah, they really wanted to make something special.
They did. And I think in a way, the fact that it was so limited actually adds to its mystique.
Yeah, like it's just this.
So, and it makes it even more desirable.
Yeah, because it's like, most people can't even see one.
Right. Right.
It's like this forbidden fruit.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's so valuable to collectors.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I mean, Giorgio Moroder's prototype sold for like $1.3 million.
Yeah. Just a few years ago.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And that really kind of brought the Cizeta back into the spotlight.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people hadn't even heard of it until that auction.
Yeah. Right.
So what makes it so valuable? I mean, besides the fact that it's rare.
Well, it's a piece of automotive history.
Okay.
It's a car that, challenged conventions.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of a certain era.
Yeah.
And, it has this great story behind it.
Yeah.
All the drama, the ambition.
Yeah.
The heartbreak.
Yeah, like all of those elements.
All of it, yeah.
Like kind of combine.
It all comes together to make it this really special car.
And in a world where like a lot of supercars kind of look the same.
Yeah.
This one really stands out.
It does. It has a lot of personality. It's not just another, cookie cutter supercar.
Yeah, and it makes you think, like, what if they had stayed partners? What if they had gotten into the U.S. market?
Yeah, what if?
Like, who knows what could have happened?
Right. It's fascinating to think about.
But even though it didn't achieve, like, massive success, I think it still had a really big impact.
It did. I mean, it showed people that, success isn't always about sales figures.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about, having a vision and being bold and taking risks.
Yeah, like this is a car that people still talk about today.
Yeah. And it inspires people. I mean, it inspires other designers, other engineers.
Yeah.
It shows them what's possible.
Yeah. So it's not just about, the numbers.
No, it's about the legacy.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the interior.
Okay.
Because we've talked about, the engine. We talked about how it looks.
Yeah.
What was it like to actually sit in this car?
Well, the interior of the Cizeta is actually quite interesting.
Okay.
It's not as, like, over the top as you might expect.
Okay.
Yeah. Given the exterior.
Yeah, because I'm picturing, like, a spaceship.
Right. But it's much more like a classic Italian sports car.
Okay.
Very luxurious, but also very driver-focused.
Okay.
Lots of leather, wood, analog gauges.
So they really focused on the materials?
Oh, yeah. Very high-quality materials,
Right.
very well-crafted.
Okay.
And I think they were going for a more, like, refined experience inside the car. You know, you've got this, like, crazy engine behind you.
Yeah.
But you're sitting in this, like, very comfortable, luxurious cabin.
Like a nice contrast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did they even fit all that stuff in there?
Well, it was a challenge, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that engine took up a lot of space.
Yeah.
But they managed to make it work.
Okay.
The cabin is actually surprisingly spacious,
Right.
especially for a supercar from that era.
Okay.
And they really prioritized visibility.
Okay.
So you have a big windshield, big side windows.
You don't feel claustrophobic.
Exactly. You don't want to feel like you're trapped in this tiny little cockpit.
Right. Especially with that much power.
Yeah.
So they didn't skimp on any of the, like, luxury stuff?
No, not at all. I mean, it was all top of the line.
Okay.
The leather was beautiful. The wood was gorgeous.
Okay.
They really put a lot of effort into making it feel special.
Okay, so it's like they were trying to balance that kind of aggressive exterior with this, like, really nice, elegant interior.
Exactly. It's like a yin and yang kind of thing.
Yeah.
The best of both worlds.
Yeah, and it's Italian.
Oh, yeah.
So it's got that certain something.
That Italian flair.
Yeah, what does that even mean, though? Like, what is Italian flair?
It's hard to describe, but you know it when you see it.
Okay.
It's like a certain confidence, a certain style, a certain attention to detail.
Yeah?
It's like they took all the best things about Italian design and they put it into this car.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like they really created something special with that interior.
Yeah.
They did. It's too bad that it didn't really take off.
It is, yeah.
Like, it really deserved, I think.
I think so, too.
To be more popular.
But, sometimes that's just how it goes.
Yeah. And, our listeners over on Vintage Car Chronicles, they've really enjoyed learning about this car.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to talk about it.
Yeah, it really has. And it's been great having you here.
Thanks for having me.
You really know your stuff about this.
I try.
So I think, the Cizeta V16T might not have been, a huge commercial success.
Yeah.
But it left its mark.
It definitely did.
On the automotive world.
Yeah, it showed people that it's okay to dream big.
Yeah.
To be different.
And it's beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful car.
It's a gorgeous car.
I mean, that engine is just...
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's a work of art.
Yeah. So, the Cizeta V16T, story of ambition, ingenuity.
Yeah.
Really just going after something you want to do.
Passion project. Yeah.
And even though it didn't succeed the way they maybe wanted it to.
Yeah.
I think it's still a success.
I agree.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's a success in the sense that, it inspired people.
Yeah.
And it left a legacy.
Yeah, and people are still talking about it today.
Yeah.
Which is, that's kind of the goal, right?
It's all you can ask for, I think.
Yeah, so thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Cizeta V16T, curated just for you, the listeners of Vintage Car Chronicles.
My pleasure.
We release new episodes every day, so be sure to check us out right here on Spotify. And we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.